Welcome to Use Your Words podcast, where every time we have a serious conversation, all three of us are always fully engaged and pay attention.
Summer.
And Josh is
Time to
looking
show
around like,
off the summer
what's
pod.
going on?
I blinked out there for a second. Keep talking. I'll catch up.
You blinked out for a second. Great. Even back then, Josh was buying stuff left and right. And as we know, at the end of the last episode, Josh was looking at, building a table, plywood, that.
Yeah.
So that's why he was a little not engaged, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Right, Josh? Yeah? Yeah? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So what are you looking at now, or what are you buying, or what are you building, or what are you dreaming about, or what are you lusting over?
To see how much I could charge Aaron to build him a wooden bar counter.
Dude, I've already got stuff at home in the garage to use. You ain't building me nothing.
So regardless, if you have figured out the theme this week, this month, give yourself a pat on the back again. You have received clue number 2 so far. Clue number 2 about what the theme of this month is. And even though it's a theme, it's not a theme that necessarily means that's what we're talking about all month long, but it is a theme, a thread that ties everything together this entire month. Now, that being said, I did want to talk about something, I guess you could say maybe a little more close to my heart because of the fact that I saw this news article come out, and in all honesty, I shut down for the evening when I saw this article because my brain did not want to process it that this was true. Because the implications of this are dramatic on many levels. So let's back up a minute here before we get to that. So we've been dealing with COVID now for what? Since
March.
With the lockdowns and that,
Yeah.
So we've been dealing with COVID for a little while now. You think of 2020 and you think of COVID. And you think of
Riots.
And well, I wouldn't say just riots, civil unrest.
Yeah.
All this other stuff going on. But you really think of that and you wonder sometimes how crazy the world is. You look at it, and of course it's an election year, so that means you're going to have all those vitriolic attacks through political ads and pundits and talking heads and all this other stuff. And it seems to all spiral out of control, and it's crazy. And one of my concerns, and I remember saying this near the beginning of all this with all the lockdowns, was that we may see, unfortunately, a larger number. My original estimate was that we might see a larger number of people die from like suicide and that, and drug use and drug overdose than we do from necessarily COVID itself. Now, while that isn't necessarily true at this point, and I say not necessarily true at this point because of the fact that people go, oh, this is a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. I used to work for a hospital chain. It's reality. If you die with COVID, you can be marked down and encouraged to be marked down as death from COVID. Okay? That is reality. Now that's not necessarily, the case all the time, 100% of the time. It's not like, oh, Josh has a COVID droplet on him. He died from COVID. It's, was he actually infected with COVID or not? Sort of deal. So we're not going to know the true cause of death of like suicides and that for probably a while, unfortunately, because that day it takes time to compound and analyze and everything. But what you're seeing right now is you're seeing a large number of people who feel hopeless. And I'm not pulling up data from fringe websites, from, Breitbart News or, anything like that where people go, oh, that's fake news. Not pulling up from CNN where people from the right will go, that's fake news. Not pulling up from anything like that. So I'm not saying, hey, look. Now, that being said, just because this is a government entity, people go, oh, it's Trump's CDC, so of course it's bad. Those people, I almost don't have time for niceties today with this one. Like, those people, in my personal opinion, wants to tell them, go die in a fire, but I know that's not right. I know that's not right, because then they'll go die in a fire, they have COVID, they'll be counted as a COVID death.
Right.
So
And then you're in trouble for it.
yeah, I know. So what caused me to shut down was this article put out by the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They put it out on August 14th of this year, and it was the results of a survey that they did between June 24th and 30th of this year. And if you haven't read this yet, I honestly would recommend you go and read it, because, and I will include a link to it in this show notes here, as well as a direct link to the PDF, because it paints a picture that shows that America right now, and I'm not saying America has a mental health issue per se in and of itself. We have a mental health issue due to isolation, due to COVID and lockdowns, to be honest, if you look, because of the time frames of which this is. But the piece of data that really just blew my mind, okay, within the previous 30 days of the survey being taken, those who were in the age of 18 to 24 years old, 25.5% of those responded that they had seriously considered committing suicide. Let that sink in. You have 4 people in your house. 1 in 4 people seriously considered killing themselves due to the isolation, restrictions, and all that due to COVID. And here's the thing. They specifically call this mental health, substance use, and various other things related to COVID-19. We got a problem. Now, you can talk about masks, not masks, social distancing, not social distancing, online learning, not online learning. You can talk about all those things left and right. But something's wrong when you have 25% of people and I'm talking to Josh and Aaron here, in your age range, with all these methods of communication and connectedness. You have Snapchat, Facebook, Messenger, text messaging, you have video chatting, you have, you name it, you guys got it. And yet 1 in 4 people in your age range. Think about your friend group.
Yeah.
1 in 4. Then unfortunately, we're not going to know the actual statistics on the numbers who actually fall through with that.
Right.
Obviously, because 1,
They're gone.
if they're dead, they can't respond to the survey.
Yep.
And 2, it takes time for these death certificates and all that to be finalized. Like some of the last results of suicide numbers we have are from the early 2010s. So it's going to take a while before we get data from 2020.
Yeah.
Like I said, it caused me to literally mentally shut down when I read that. And I didn't want to believe that was true. So that's where we start. Yeah, I know. We start on the low end, right? Right?
So, because I'm granted, I'm not really smarticle.
Smarticle?
Yeah. So 731 people were did this survey through the 18 to 24-year-old gap.
Right.
Okay. So 13% of the 13.4%
Of all respondents total.
were in that age range, and 25% of them, 25.5%.
Yeah, and the reason you do statistics and you do surveys in that is because that tells you kind of what you do, a sampling of the general population.
Yeah.
And so if you get a chance to pull up the study, pull up the PDF and kind of read along on some of the stuff here. So if you we're going to look at 18 to 24 for a moment here, right? If you look at this, the last column where it says more than one adverse mental or behavioral health symptom for 18 to 24.
75%. 74.9.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Depressive disorder, 52%. Anxiety, 50%. Anxiety or depressive, 62.9. COVID-19 related, they call it TSRD, like a mental stress related thing, 46%. 25% started or increased substance use to cope with pandemic related stress or emotions.
Which is that was one thing. Like at first, when all this stuff started going down, the whole thing was obviously like toilet paper being gone and like cleaning products being gone. But then when I went to the liquor section,
Liquor was empty.
there was a lot missing.
Yeah.
Especially in the whiskey department. But I was just like, that's crazy. Like, okay, I guess granted, I mean, so for my first place was going to like festival and stuff like that, and that seemed pretty normal. But I remember going to a Pick and Save and seeing the liquor department just pretty darn empty. And I was like, that's, well, one, really concerning, and just, I mean, sad to see that that's what people would go to. But it's like at the same time, if they don't know anything else to go to, it's then what do you do?
Right.
You know?
And you hear a lot of people, especially when you're talking about mental health, they're like, "Oh, it's maybe the poor people because they're out of a job or whatever," right? Well, if you look in this PDF, they break it down by household income.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's statistically the same across the board.
Yeah.
Actually, in this case, in reality, the lower the income, the lower percentage of people that seriously considered suicide. And if you continue looking at this, 12.6% of all the males who responded, of all across all ages, seriously considered suicide versus 8.9% of females. So men were across all age groups way more likely to consider suicide as an option. I mean, this goes across your geographic boundaries. This goes across your education. This goes across your income. And again, for whatever reason, So, like, let's see here. I'm going to look at employment stats, right?
That's what I was just starting to look at.
So, essential actually had the highest percentage of people who considered suicide.
Yeah, which that...
Well, it could be the stress of being on the front line, having to wear masks all the time, seeing people, or maybe not seeing people, having to deal with new... Because this flipped the world upside down. You had new cleaning procedures. You had new procedures for essentially everything. Josh, I'm sure a lot of stuff changed at your work when you had to do stuff, right? Masks, social distancing. Josh is shaking his head no.
Let's say for us, how soon do we start wearing masks? Because it wasn't right away. But then at some point we had to wear masks, which we still do. We have one gal that will go through and do routine cleaning on all the stuff that's being like used and whatnot. Well, we have hand sanitizer and stuff like that to,
right, yeah,
once you come back in from like outside or something like that, to quick just clean your hands type thing. And that's about all we've done for that. And granted, I mean, for as far as the social distancing stuff goes, generally we're not always really that close. But I mean, at times you can't help but be close. But for the most part, everyone's fairly far away from each other, anyways, to a point. We do check our temperatures and have to have like a little thing to like sign off on that we were good. And then like one of the things is there's like, have we been exposed to, or has any family member like been, sick or whatever with COVID or something like that? And we've had an instance where one of our workers had a family member that did have it. So then that person had to obviously stay home in quarantine and with the rest of the family. And after that time was done and all was tested positive, negative.
Right.
I mean, they were allowed back. And then we've had like other people where it's like they've been sick and it's like, if you feel sick, just stay home and pretty much just give it some time to see how you're doing. And if you're all right, then you can come back. But yeah, I mean, we're such a small little shop. So thankfully we haven't had too many issues. But yeah, and it didn't.
Have you guys felt increased stress at all doing your day-to-day jobs with masks and cleaning and all that other stuff?
Stress with that, no. But I guess with orders, yes.
Okay.
Mainly because we have been, we do some medical stuff like that, where we do medical orders with straps and stuff. So for a while, we had a huge increase of stuff to get out. So, I mean, that puts pressure on, deadlines and getting work done for, I guess, essential stuff. And other than that, and it was really weird because for a while, everything was like gung-ho, like, you gotta keep going. and pushing through, and then it slowed down a ton. But now we're starting to get slammed with a couple other things. I don't know if they're medical related or not. I don't know. I think they might be. But now, like, that's causing things to get a little hectic in the shop from time to time when everyone's like busting their butt to get stuff done. And it's exciting.
Yeah.
But as far as stress related because of like having to clean and wear masks,
Mhm.
I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, do we enjoy it? No. It can get hot in there because we don't have air conditioning. So I mean, we have fans, thankfully, to do stuff, but like in certain areas, like for me, like I'm up in like a mezzanine or whatever,
Mhm.
so and we don't really have anything to circulate much air through there, so it gets hot up there from time to time. So thankfully, I've been granted permission to not wear a mask while I'm up there, mainly because I'm far away from everyone and I'm not in any close contact with anyone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, because then, otherwise it gets hot up there pretty quick. So, I don't know. But that's, I guess, it is crazy to see how that is higher for essential workers. Right? Yeah. Because for me, like I was, one, I was kind of looking forward to getting off and not having to work for a bit. Not gonna lie, I was kind of excited. I was like, oh, we're gonna have to shut down, and I can do some other things that of my own that I'd like to do. But being an essential company, learning that we were, I was like, oh wow. So we had to keep going. Oh, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm just thankful to have a job still. I figured I mean, I guess I would have figured people that were essential would be glad to keep working because that's a paycheck coming in still. But then, granted, I guess for these essential workers, like what line of work are they doing? Because if I was working in a hospital, I'd probably be a little bit more nervous to keep working there.
Well, also like let's say a grocery store, right? We've
big
all
time.
seen those videos of the belligerent older man or whatever going into the grocery store. Maybe there's a mask mandate in the area, and they go in and they're fighting or they're yelling or they're screaming at the employee who really is being forced again. And I know this is a meme, but whatever. Where they agree with the mandate about masks or not, but they're being said, hey, as a part of your employment, you have to kind of enforce people coming in to wear masks because either store policy or government or whatever. I could see that contributing to that very well. How would you like that if you went to your job and you had these people coming in and just yelling at you for no reason at all, essentially?
Yeah, that is, man. I've found myself in, granted, not with this specific thing, but just like getting upset with store employees or just like workers for something. Where granted, they're doing their job and it's not their decision. It's the bigger guy's decision on why they have to. So it's like when you're getting upset with the employees, like, wait, you need to step back and think, wait, they're just doing what they're supposed to be told. Well, they're doing what they're told to do.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not them personally that are enforcing this. It's just, hey man, if you got a job, you got to do it. And it sucks.
Yeah. And be kind to those employees. Cause guess what? They may be with you and be like, this mask is doing nothing.
Yeah.
By the way, I have a mask coming in. It's an LED mask.
Oh my gosh.
So I'll be able to write whatever I want on the mask.
That's awesome.
And it can be scrolling text too.
Oh my
goodness.
So the person enforcing the mask might not believe the masks are really doing that much, for things. There's arguments for and against, blah, blah, blah. Don't care at this point. If the store or the government mandates it, just follow along. Obviously, like Racine one, I think probably needs to be reevaluated since that goes till the end of the year.
Yeah.
December 31st. That one maybe, but like the governor one, it goes till sometime in September. That's at least reasonable. There's an end date in sight. Can we still talk about it? Yes. But, just be kind to those people.
Yeah. There's the other thing is when you saw those kids being stupid and going around licking grocery store like items and stuff like that. Like, man,
that was like right at the start of everything. And they were charged with terroristic threats.
Yeah, that is. Whew,
Mhm.
that's scary. That's a big one.
That's when you done messed up.
Yeah. So I mean, as with that in mind, I mean that would be kind of pretty stressful, just like not knowing who you're gonna run into.
Yeah.
Because there's so many stupid people out there, unfortunately.
So essential employee like you, I could see not stressor, but
No.
essential employee like hospital staff or grocery store, I could see
Grocery.
that. So I want to read this because this is I'm going to read a direct quote from the CDC document here. It's under the section called discussion, and it says this: elevated levels of adverse mental health conditions, substance use, and suicidal ideation were reported by adults in the United States in June 2020. The prevalence of symptoms of anxiety disorder was approximately 3 times those reported in the second quarter of 2019, 25.5 versus 8.1%. And prevalence of depressive disorder was approximately 4 times that reported in the second quarter of 2019, 24.3 versus 6.5%. So second quarter 2019 to second quarter 2020. And that's across all age ranges, obviously. That depressive and anxiety just, yeah,
Spiked up.
crazy amount. And if you continue reading on, if you're into statistics at all, so if you like math and statistics, you know that a confidence interval of CI of 95% is pretty good, right? So when you're dealing with statistics, any number, the closer a number is to 1 or more than 1, the more corresponding it is, with the data. Well, that whole thing about depressive disorder, 18 to 24. Yeah. So the 18 to 24 versus 25 to 44, that's a 1.56. So in other words, what they're saying is it's a very big difference if you're 18 to 24 versus 25 to 44, if you have symptoms of depressive or anxiety or like all these numbers, even the suicide one, 1.59. That's a big correlation, a big difference between those two generations. If you look at the raw numbers support that as well. 25.5 again, 18 to 24. But I noticed something as they get older, 25 to 44, it's down to 16%. 45 to 64, 3.8. Older than 65, 2%.
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy drop.
Yeah, you have a very significant drop off. And the thing is, it's that age thing, that's across all of these items.
Yeah.
So that seems counterintuitive to me because your generation, and I'm looking at you two, you have the most opportunities and ways to connect. You have game systems, so you can do chat, you can do video calls, you can do text messages, group messages, like I was saying earlier. So why is that? The most connected generation that you guys have is the ones feeling the most depressive and isolated. I want both of your thoughts on this.
I don't actually believe that we are that connected.
Don't.
Okay, why not?
Defend that.
So one of the common things you see, and any Christian can attest to this, is that we all have this void in our life, right? And one of the things that I filled my void with years ago was a car. That's all I would talk about. That's all I would spend my time on. That's all I would prioritize for because God wasn't in that void.
Okay.
And what I think I have seen with our generation and the generation coming up is the way that they filled their void is with social media. So they get that attention fix that they're looking for because they might not be getting it at home from their parents. And so realistically, they're just getting that little extra dose of what they're looking for. But the real attention comes into play when they're with their friends, because then they can talk about that. They can express, oh my gosh, you were with him over the weekend, or they can actually be with people, and all those little doses they got, they flash and show off, and people can, because as much as, liking something or commenting on something is something, it's much different when somebody talks to you in person about it, regardless if they say that technology is the new means of communication.
I'm not talking about like a Facebook post and I'm talking like a Facebook Live group chat, a Zoom call, stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't think kids our age group do that as much as we think they probably do. But I mean, I really don't think so.
Really? Because we just had camp, and anytime any of the teens and the 18-year-olds got a chance to do a video call, they were doing that with their significant others all the time, or their friends all the time. There was a little, essentially like this LTE triangle where, depending on your carrier, you could get LTE, and they would sit there until bedtime chatting with their friends on video call.
Anyways, we are designed to be social creatures. So when we're getting this fix on the side and we're not actually getting what we really need, I feel like that void ends up becoming deeper and deeper and deeper, and that side fix they were used to getting isn't enough anymore. So that's just kind of how I see it.
Okay.
I mean, just look at prisons and stuff. Solitary confinement is designed to torture the prisoner because that's not how we were intended to be, completely isolated.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Okay. Johnson, you got any thoughts on
change my mind.
this whole thing? You just jumped out of that age group. You're now 25.
Yeah.
So technically you're in the lower risk age group, but you were recently a 24-year-old.
That was months ago. Okay. Months ago.
I can see you as a white girl rolling your eyes. Anyways.
Stop it. I'm trying to figure out like why it's so much higher for us compared to the older people. Because I mean, I guess as far as the whole COVID thing goes, as far as my understanding is, the older you are, the more freaked out you should be about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. My parents were not worried at all about COVID. They're like, I don't know. Like, I remember talking to him. I was like, hey, so I've been obviously hanging out with a friend, and their friend works in their significant other works with the hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I remember talking to him like, hey, would you want me to stay away for a while, kind of thing, or live with the friend for like the time being until this thing blows over? Which I mean, of course, now it's
been going for a while.
Yeah. But they're like, no, we're not worried about it at all. And okay, granted, okay. This is also, I mean, being believers in Christ and stuff like that, and being Christians, it's like if they die, they know where they're going, kind of thing, you know? So to that point, they're not concerned about getting it. I mean, are they just going to blatantly go out and try and get it? No, not going to be like that. But it's like, I guess they're not terrified of getting it. And for our age range, supposedly we're not that we don't have that danger of like actually dying from this, unless I guess the whole underlying health issues. There's
still a question of could there potentially be long-term effects? Like, some are going, long-term, your lungs are going to be damaged. Long-term, your heart's going to be damaged. Long-term, this. But that's still an unknown at this point. What exactly long and short-term things? See, and I feel this goes back to, what experts do you trust? Right. And granted, I don't know. I feel like there's so many other things that we do to ourselves as people that, like, if we were told, yeah, this is going to have a long-term effect on you, we'd probably freak out about it. But it's like a norm type thing. Well, I guess like drinking. I mean, a lot of like younger folks, I mean, they'll love to go out and party. It's like, do you understand what you could be doing to yourself in the future, depending on how much you drink? Like, you're killing yourself. Your liver will be very much damaged by this. But people aren't concerned about that because they're all about going out and having fun. Like, well, I'm fine so far. Like, what's it gonna do? It'll maybe affect me later on. I don't understand the mindset. But I guess one thing it goes to show, all the social media stuff, one, as connected as we can be through technology, being separated from each other physically, there's just something about it that it's hard to stay away from. Going to when we had like Zoom, like Bible study things or whatever, since we couldn't meet in person, they started doing Zoom stuff. Granted, I mean, it's cool that you can do that. That's nice. I think I did it a couple times, but then I was like, I don't know. I started having nothing to do after work or no places to really go to.
definitely made me think, oh, I could try and do this with the extra time I have now, which was cool. But like, yeah, doing a Zoom meeting for a Bible study versus doing an in-person meeting, it's different. It's very much different. There's something about that being in person just adds so much to it. So I'm puzzled. Yeah, I don't know why that age group is so like freaking out about stuff.
Okay.
I really don't know. I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything.
I have a couple thoughts on all this. Of course, like I always do, right?
Yeah.
So here's my thoughts on this, and a couple things I'm going to touch on as well, because you brought up like the Zoom meetings and that, right? Zoom meetings are great if you're 100% dedicated all in on it. You know, you could go to a Zoom meeting, you could do whatever, like a Zoom Bible study, right? But you know what's easy for you to do? You can mute, turn off your camera. You could have that playing, you know, on your computer, like you're attending the Bible study.
Yeah, but you're not really.
But you could turn around and turn on your game console and play Minecraft.
I remember when we did. Granted, I did not do this. I did not do this. But when we did that one week where we recorded stuff remotely, I was like,
careful what you say.
Go on.
That was definitely like a thing. It's like I could totally be distracted doing something else and not even paying attention to what you guys are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there is right there that disconnect where it's like if you're not into it, well, I guess there's something about being together just keeps you more engaged and with what's going on.
Right, exactly. That was going to be my next point about that. But yeah, because like with Zoom stuff, you could just
check out
and do something else. You know, it's easy to do it because you're just sitting there looking at a screen. You're not engaging with people. Now, when you're in person, you have to look at the person's full body language in order to understand what they're doing, what they're saying, what's going on. And yeah, you could be distracted, but when you're distracted in person, you're like, uh-oh, I'm being rude. Typically, unlike someone in this room. You know, so when you're in person, it is a lot different than being online. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of differences because you can be friends with people online and blah, blah, blah. You can chat and all that, but online communication is really more made for asynchronous communication. You know, I send you a message and you reply back at some other time in the future.
Right.
And necessarily a thing, unless it's like, hey, I'm over across the country, I need to talk to you. Or like your nephew earlier today when he called you video chat and, you know, you just did a quick video chat, but you still would rather see him in person, I'm sure, than do that.
Well, say, you know, okay. And this, yes, I had a thing where, so my friend, John, he had known this other guy that I knew from school, and he car related, you know, stuff like that.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, they had finally met for the first time in person at like this little thing we played at. It was like a thing downtown Racine, some just open jam thing. And I guess like there's something about meeting somebody in person. Cause I mean, you can look at, gosh, there's like people from like this August Burns Red fan page or whatever. So like all these fans are, you know, interact with each other on here. On the internet, whatever. But it's like when you get that chance to meet in person, that is so much more exciting. There's something so much more special about that. Like you see that for like online friendships. It's like when you see videos of them knowing each other online versus meeting in person, there's just something super exciting about that person-to-person interaction.
Yeah.
So it's like just seeing that, it's like internet does not do.
Yeah, and it doesn't give you all those little micro you know, in-person things that a person does when you say something like maybe Josh says something that's so cringy and we're both over here like holding it in. And he, you know, if we were doing that online without video, he'd be like, oh, it's all fine, da, 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 da. But we're over here going, oh, you know,
right.
You know, Josh, if you met and only interacted with Amy online until you actually got married, you would have a different probably
awakening.
Well, no, I wouldn't say awakening, but like probably a different picture of what she's like in your head.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
because you wouldn't be able to see that when you say something stupid, her facial muscles go, or when she does something that annoys you, you don't know about it because it's an online only interaction.
Right.
You never meet face to face.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can guarantee you there's stuff that all of us do that annoy each other, but unless you see it in person, you never do it. When we did that online podcast recording that one week, there was no video. So, it was like,
I couldn't read you at all if there was something that was said. You're just like, huh? That is something that is fun because, like, once one of us says something that like catches the other off guard, it's like that whole like reaction.
And sometimes the reaction is what you need to see and let the thing land. Even though this is only audio, it's that interaction between us and catching each other in that interaction, which that part can come through on the audio portion. But if we can't see each other, it's like, what?
Yeah, that was one weird thing.
That was during the height of the COVID stuff. So it was like everyone's taking a little more precaution, but it's kind of cooled down since then.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one part of what I'm thinking. Here's my second part of what I'm thinking. 18 to 24, right?
Yeah.
You're coming out of high school and or college. You're used to being around people all the time. In high school, you're surrounded by people all the time. In college, it's you and maybe your roommate, but also your good buddies on college. You're always hanging out. You're always together. And you go from that to all of a sudden isolated. It's a big difference. Now, so then you look at 25 to 44, right? That's that next age group where it starts getting lower. Well, what happens as you start getting older? And this sucks, and I agree with this. But as you get older, as you move out of college, you do end up losing contact with a lot of the friends from college because, you're moving for a job, you're doing whatever. Maybe you're living alone now, maybe with a family. These things, you're not in that constant group dynamic all the time. So over time, you've grown a little bit more used to being a little more independent, a little more isolated. So you have this group, 18 to 24, always with people, always in group. All of a sudden you self-isolate 100%. Versus a group that has been gradually over time, maybe isolating a little bit more just because of work demands and all that other stuff.
That or they just get irritated with interacting with people.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that explains some of that.
Yeah,
that exchange. Now, also, like me, I didn't have dial-up internet for a long time. So my life hasn't revolved around Facebook, and that Facebook didn't come out till I was in college. I think I was a junior.
Wow.
When I finally got a Facebook account.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trying to think of when I got mine. Goodness.
So, I didn't grow up with that either. So, yes, there is the online stuff that Josh was talking about where, people get that little dopamine spike from online comments, posting and that. But I think a lot of that still comes from the group dynamic. We've gone from being in community 24/7 to not overnight. And, it sucks to say it, but like us older people, we've learned how to maybe how do I want to put this? How to live and be better a little bit more and a little bit more isolated. We can be a little more isolated for a little bit longer time before it's 100% negative on our psyche, because, I live in my apartment with me and my dog, that's different than when I was, 19, 20, living in a dorm suite with, so I could expect there was always at least 4 guys in the room at all times. Big different dynamic. And soon Josh will have his triplets, so there'll be 4 guys in his house.
Assuming they're all men, boys.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but I wanted to go see when I created my Facebook account. I'm sure there's something that says when it was made. I just went through the profile pictures to see because it gives the date that profile picture is posted, whatever. And I know there's one more before this, but for whatever reason, it's not there anymore. But this one was put up in 2008.
Yeah.
There's the photo.
Oh my goodness. It's skinny little Aaron on a big old motorcycle.
Yeah.
Dang.
When I say skinny little, I mean he was shorter than Josh is now.
Yeah, right.
That's short.
Gosh, but yeah, to think, so I was I had a Facebook, and I was a little guy. Like,
in 2008.
wow.
That's the year I moved back to Racine.
I was in 6th grade.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So that's crazy. Majority of my life I've had a Facebook account.
Yeah. So you've had those little dopamine spikes for a long time in your life.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. What's changed between pre-COVID and COVID? Well, you're still getting your little dopamine spikes from Facebook because people are active on Facebook all the time.
Right.
The only difference is in person versus not in person.
Yeah. And I definitely do like, well, granted, obviously it's not just me because look at the numbers, but getting together in person is just so great. Like,
Yeah.
There's something about it being able to, punch Josh and stuff like that, and mess around with him.
Yeah.
And stuff. It just makes
until we create a telepresence robot that allows us to do that and feel the robot hitting Josh.
Presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until we get to that point, then,
and then
we need to do it in person.
Yeah. Feel the love, don't you? It's just a love tap,
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And I was talking about this same concept with a parent recently of a youth group kid. I won't say any of their names. And, her kid has, some mental disorders, and they're talking about how this isolation due to COVID, it's so much worse for their kid than, because they can't go see people and they're isolating a lot more because of that. And we were talking about the difference between doing an online Zoom, even a one-on-one call, right? Or Facebook or whatever, that big difference between it. Because on that online call, you're looking at a person through like a phone screen or through a webcam, and they're saying, "Hi, look at me," and you hope your day doesn't drop for a second as you wave, and it blips out, and all of a sudden you're like, "Where'd they go?"
Right. And I think about,
and then in person, you can, if you want, you can punch them, you can hug them, you could whatever.
Yeah.
What happens when you hug a person?
There's that connection. I can't chemical stuff in the brain.
I was like, the chemical stuff. Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It releases. So your brain releases oxytocin.
Oxytocin. I like that. That's a cool word.
So that's one of those. It's called the cuddle hormone.
Oh.
So
yeah, I think about my friend Becca, who now lives overseas, and it's like you could do a Skype call or Zoom, whatever it is. That's cool. Like, that would still be really exciting besides just text. But hopefully one day they'll either be able to, her and her husband can come visit here, or me, and if anybody else can go out there and visit. Because like that moment, once you finally get in person again, it's just like magical.
Yeah. And like you were talking about, those people who have friends online, but then they meet, it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's because of that oxytocin.
Yeah.
You know what oxytocin is responsible for?
I guess not then.
So it plays a role in social bonding, actually, because I get a hit of oxytocin like when I hug you. So that links a positive thing in my brain.
Oh.
You know what else it does? It's how a mother bonds to her child after childbirth.
Oh.
It creates a positive link in the mother's brain to their child, and vice versa, obviously.
Wow. So that stuff is already happening in like a newborn?
Yeah, but most of it's for the mother's benefit.
Yeah.
So it helps with bonding with your baby. It also helps the mother produce milk. What? Yeah.
Bitch, you didn't know that one.
I didn't until now.
In order that I don't feel bad.
Yeah, I know you didn't. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. It's also so so according to, again, I have an article about this up. So oxytocin, not Oxycontin, oxytocin.
Yeah, I know, say Oxycontin's very nice though too.
It's a hormone. It's released in your bloodstream. Again, social bonding, sexual reproduction, childbirth, and then after childbirth. And that's all that.
Oxytocin.
Yeah.
And Oxycontin's kind of nice too, though.
Well, it's completely different thing.
That helps with pain.
Yeah. But that's why, like, when you hug a person, that's why they call it kind of that cuddle thing, because you build that bond mentally because you get a good feedback loop in it. So even when you just hug a person, it releases that, and you're like, oh, okay, this is a person I like. You're never going to get that from an online viewing session.
Hug your phone. Just
Hugging the phone doesn't do it.
No, it doesn't. Gosh, it's crazy. It is crazy to think of how big of an impact that has on people. Until like you don't, I guess, in the sense you take it for granted because you don't realize how important all that is until it's taken away. Man, I also, part of me figured, I mean, now like as you started going on, it's like as you get older, I mean, yeah, you kind of slowly get used to not being around people all the time. And it's like, I guess for like, especially the older generation, it's like, one, they've pretty much lived their life. They've had the fun. They've done whatever it is they've done. Now they're just kind of
because
more so just like relaxing and just trying to, I don't know, take it easy kind of thing almost.
Yeah, because as you get older, your social groups sometimes, and I say sometimes, it's not 100% guaranteed. It's not the rule, but sometimes they start paring down a little bit to more your core base. Like, who are you spending time and putting energy into? You're not, back in your college days when you're at a frat party, with hundreds of people and you're like, you're all my friends.
Right.
It's not like that. It's now you might have like 10 to 15 very close friends.
Right.
And most of them are probably, if you're married, they're probably almost all going to be married couples,
Right. And granted, now this also, I was thinking about like last night. So after I had band practice, I met up with a couple friends and we've been going to this couple's house who it's a couple, they're in their like 70s and stuff like that. And then the people that go there, I mean, it's a couple friends of mine. We're all the same age in our mid 20s. And we go hang out with this, older couple and hang out. And I mean, so it's like, obviously there's people out there that like to hang out and I don't know, they like to have fun. Pretty much what we've been doing is just, I guess what's been cool about it is hearing about like the lives of the older couple, like just seeing like their experiences through life and whatnot. And like just talking about how, the things that they've gone through can be things that we're going through now. And then you see how, they got through it and how they're going on. It's like kind of just a cool learning opportunity too.
Yeah.
To interact with people that are much older than you. Cause it's like, granted, the things that are going on now for us might be new to us, but then when you interact with someone that's been older and been through life, it's like you'll be okay.
I will say though, no one who's alive. Well, no, there might be. There's a few people that are alive now, but they're over 100 that went through like the pandemic of 1918.
Oh,
those people have gone through something like this before, but even your old couple friend here, they haven't been through a pandemic like this.
Yeah.
They went through the polio scare, but even then.
Oh, yeah.
The pandemic of 1918 was kind of like this as it is now.
A huge deal.
And even back then, you saw a lot of people get depressed in that. It was.
And I mean, think about this, obviously, the stuff they didn't have then compared to what we have today.
Yeah.
Like, I guess, I'm kind of curious as to how much that could have
you
changed
would have like,
things or not.
You would have had like 20 acres between you and your neighbor.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, that's in the rule. Even in 19, we started having cities like Chicago and that. Oh, great Chicago.
Sweet home.
Don't get me started on Lightfoot.
I won't. It is crazy to think about how like little old Racine used to just be a bunch of farmland and stuff like that though too. Like hearing from like my folks and even when they're around their parents and stuff like that. Like little old Racine didn't used to be much compared to what it is today. It's really wild to think about. But there was something interesting that I was shown. It was kind of like showing about how like just like the past, like I guess one of them being that pandemic, but just like all the struggles people have gone through in the years past compared to now, and it's granted. I mean, this is affecting people in many different ways, but it's like to see what they went through and like the little that they had to kind of like, I guess in a sense, get them through. I don't know. It's impressive. and amazing to see what they had to go through. And I mean, it just makes me a lot more appreciative of what we've got today to keep going and stuff like that. It's crazy how cool technology can kind of keep us in touch with one another.
Yeah.
But yeah, these numbers obviously crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I saw that 25%, and it's a little bit more than 25%, but 25% in that age range. Overall it's like 10%, 11%. But still, I was like, that's
so high.
That's so many people that don't have hope of living. Because the response is seriously considered suicide in the previous 30 days. We're not talking minorly like, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore, because you have a bad day. Because we've all done that stupid stuff. It's like you're 100%. Like something not freaks you out, but like annoys you so much. You're like, I'm done. I'm just out.
I'm ready to check out of here. This is stupid.
No, they seriously considered.
Yeah.
I think because I was just at youth group camp this past weekend.
Yeah.
If I look back, that means 2 of the teens in my cabin, if they were in this age range.
Yeah.
Would be in that boat. And that makes it all the more just personal and that wow factor. You think of that. If you're someone, I think of a family of the church, they have 5 kids.
Yeah. Yep.
If you have multiple brothers or sisters, 1 in 4. And the thing is, people are almost afraid, I guess you could say, to ask for help, get help.
Yeah. I met up with a friend and kind of talked about this a little bit, and I was just like, because thinking, as time goes on, it's like you hear a lot more about mental health or people needing mental help because there's a lot of mental illness out there.
Mm-hmm.
And because like at first I used to kind of think, I was like, well, how many people are just doing this for attention kind of thing, and versus people that actually need it. And I figured there's more people that were just like, I guess you could say, just weak in a sense and just wanted extra attention. But then at the same time, it's like, I mean, maybe since it started to kind of come out, obviously more people hopefully are more comfortable with admitting this kind of stuff, and it's actually more serious. And so I've been starting to really have that mentality about it a lot more, where it's like, I mean, granted, you can still have those people that might, I guess, try and, in a sense, abuse the whole thing of having mental illness or whatever and just doing it for attention, which is awful to do, especially when you have people, obviously, that really have issues and need help with it. They said, like, they think now is people are finally just becoming more okay about talking about it and less afraid to put that out there. Mainly, one, because it's becoming realized that, like, hey, this is an actual big thing.
Right. And I'll say this, for a long time, there's been a stigma almost around it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't talk about that's one of those things of, I remember this when I was a kid. I don't know if you guys got this, but like at family get-togethers, you never talked about a few things, religion, politics, stuff like that. That kind of fit into that. It was always the thing of that dirty little secret.
Right.
That, because you almost kind of felt like you were branded as broken.
Right. Which, and I mean, man, it is weird. I find it funny how that would get classified into that, because it's like, I don't know. It's trying to think of people think like, I'm like so unique and different. Like nobody will understand me, and like my thoughts are just like some weird foreign like stupid thing.
Yeah, no.
And and I know it's like when you finally like come across someone that has the same thing, it's just like a major like eye opener. Like, wait a minute, guess what? We're all the same to some degree.
Yeah.
It's like we all have.
And part of the problem, again, coming back to it, if you don't talk and try to get help and, share what's going on, guess what? You're going to think you're alone because you're not hearing that from other people who are maybe not hearing it. And that's one of those things of like, one of my goals through this and through some other things I'm working on try to destigmatize the conversation around mental health as much as possible.
Yeah.
I'm working with heart support on stuff in the master class and got some stuff coming out through that soon.
That's cool.
And it's just like destigmatize as much as possible. And I'll say this, if you have experienced mental health issue, don't be afraid to talk about it, because here's the thing. If you're not afraid to talk about it, and you like me, I'll talk about what I've gone through, and that might help someone who's maybe going through something similar, who is afraid to talk about it. They can connect and say, hey, I'm not alone and crazy. There is someone else who understands a little bit of what's going on. And again, my circumstances might not be exactly the same as everyone else's, but I can have a glimpse into what's going on. And if I don't understand, it's like, hey, you know what? I don't know, but I know where we can get you some help, because there are places for help. That's the thing. And that's a good thing, and that leads into a whole other conversation about, insurance and all that, and what places are covered and what places aren't, and what treatments are covered and what treatments aren't, and everything. And thankfully, like me, I've had good enough insurance where I've been able to get the help I needed from the doctors I needed to not have to worry about any of that stuff of, can I do that or not? But you have, especially younger people, and like your age, like you weren't living with mommy and daddy, Mr. Johnson, right? And you're working your job, right? Do they offer health insurance through your work as a benefit?
Ooh. I know I can get some kind of insurance through them.
Okay.
I haven't looked much.
Let's say they don't, okay? Mm-hmm. And you had to go out and buy your own health insurance. That'd be an additional bill you would have to pay, and you'd have to pick either between rent, food, or insurance.
Rent and food.
I know. And then all of a sudden, your insurance lapses, and you have to pay full price for the medicine, full price for the doctors. That can get expensive quickly.
Yes.
So that is also something that is also hurting our younger people as well, because they're just if they're out of college, right? They're just starting their career.
They don't have money. They
don't have the most money in the world. And that's a whole other conversation. How do we fix the medical system and insurance? And I keep going back and forth on things. There are things that need to be addressed. That's for sure. And I think we can all agree that there are things that need to be addressed.
Oh, yeah.
How we go about fixing it, that's a whole other conversation that people have been arguing over for many years now.
Right.
And no one has the correct answer, because everywhere in the world, no matter the solution you're using, is still a mess.
Oh, yeah.
But that being said, there are ways to get help still. If you go to an ER, even if you don't have insurance, and like you're suicidal, they're obligated to at least see you and hopefully at least put you on medicine. Obviously it's not going to be the best. Obviously, best route is to go to, a therapist, psychologist, and get evaluated, get the medicine, get what's needed. But sometimes you don't have those options. That's how it is, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 1 in 4. And we could have one more person here, and that would put us in,
right.
Statistically, even us three here, we're talking one of us. Statistically, we're a pretty good chance.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I haven't been there at all, but I could see with this isolation how easy it would be to quickly get that despair and go there.
Oh, absolutely.
Because everything is overwhelming. You can't interact with people. You don't have any release on what you're doing. For those who were like gym rats, they couldn't go to the gym and work out.
Yeah.
All these things that people were doing to release and get entertainment. You can't go watch a movie. I think they just started opening up movie theaters in Southeast Wisconsin yesterday. Was the first day.
Yeah.
You could even do entertainment things that you enjoyed. Concerts, they're done for, essentially. Church services for a long time in most places were shut down and online only. Again, difference between online and in person.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. And I kind of like having the online thing for church, mainly because it's like I can sleep until whenever I want, and then I can still see the sermon later if I want to, because it's recorded.
It's nice, but there's still that difference between online and in person.
Yeah, because part of me is just like, I guess I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that now anymore. Because it's like part of it, almost to a point, it's like knowing that there's people you can go out and see and spend time with at church is a part of, like, I guess, a motivational thing to get you to go to church. Part of it. I mean, because granted, if it was just me going to a church to listen to a sermon on my own, would I like actually make the effort to go to a church? Probably not. Maybe not. I don't know. If I can do it from home, I'll just do it from home. But having that in-person connection with people definitely is a big helper to want to go out. Because otherwise, if I want to, I can just sit at home and listen to sermons and read, the Bible and do whatever I want on my own.
So you're gonna listen to a sermon and do Minecraft.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, because then that again, as I said, you can check out anytime. Because then I had the mentality of like, well, I can just pause, do something else real quick, and I'll just come back to it. But then once you get distracted with something else, it's like, oh, wait, I didn't go back to it.
Yeah, and it's also like having a conversation cut off midstream. You might forget what the previous part of the conversation was.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you come back and you're like, wait, what? I'm confused.
Yeah. And that's, I've had times like at work, I'll listen to like sermons and whatnot. And,
I'm giving someone eye contact.
Yeah. Like someone will like at work will have to ask me a question or whatever, and then I have to sit there and be like, pause it. So one, I can really give my full attention to the conversation, like what the question is. But then it's like, when I get back to that, it's just like, crap, what was just going on?
Yeah. Humans, we try to say we can multitask, but we suck at context switching.
Right. I say I'm a drummer. I can multitask.
Well, that's because, you're multitasking, but your one task is drumming. You're not context switching. You're not going between drumming and having an in-depth conversation at the same time. Because if I interrupt you halfway through a measure and start having an in-depth conversation with you, when you go back to drumming, you kind of have to start that measure over. You can't just pick up right where you were left off at.
Yeah, unless, I'd say the only way you could do that is if you just had complete muscle memory of whatever it was you were playing. But even then,
you probably separated the left and right portions of your brain a little bit more than normal.
Because then also it's like, you can't. I'm kind of curious now. Is there a drummer out there that can have a full-on legitimate conversation with someone while playing a live show? Probably not. My guess would be on no.
You do your research and let me know.
Because I mean, you have to listen to what the band's doing.
Do you though? Do you really care as a drummer what the band is doing?
I do. But it is kind of
fair enough.
It is funny, like, granted, like I've had 2 shows with the current band I'm in. And like it's kind of fun because like where I've been is like we're in this back little room and there's like windows around us. And like I've had a couple friends outside the window like peeking in or whatever. And the window's open so like you can say hi, we're seeing whatever. And like as we're playing, like there's like moments where it's like I'll look over and like wave, and as I'm just still playing, like I'm focused on them. I'm not focused on playing. But then as soon as I come back, it's like, all right, I don't know. Granted, I'm not having a conversation with somebody. I'm just looking at them. But then at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm still listening to what the band's doing. So I'm not really focused on them a whole lot. I'm just like, oh, hi, as I'm still playing. I'm curious now.
The thought process of Aaron Johnson. Interesting.
Yeah, it is. Tell me about it.
Okay. Well, do you have any final closing comments? Either of you, Josh, the quiet one. Why are you quiet over here in your corner? What are you shopping for?
Aaron is just.
I'm just
going. He's just going.
I'm in it today.
Yeah, you are.
Gosh,
it's been like this the past like couple months, and you just sitting over here, quiet, Josh. Anyway, final comments from either one of you.
Gosh. Well, seeing these numbers and seeing this kind of stuff, definitely, it's like, don't hesitate to show a little extra love to the younger people. Man, I guess like being like seeing this makes me want. Well, one, just have to be more aware of it. That's scary. Yeah, well, not just having extra love for them, but just everybody, especially during all this craziness. I don't know. don't be afraid to show it more than usual, I guess.
Show it more than usual.
Yeah. Because I don't know. I've had stuff like with friends and stuff like that where I've kind of, I guess you have like your friendship and you just go so long and don't really think twice about it too much. It's like, well, I mean, you hang out, whatever. But then I have had a couple moments recently where like we really started to kind of just get on a deeper level on like just like while talking and just kind of being like talking about like, well, one about how like you care for one another kind of thing. And just I guess reconfirming that the whole like lovey-dovey stuff. No, well, not lovey-dovey stuff, but just like remember how like I would lovey-dovey is a terrible way to.
I was like, lovey-dovey, what are you talking about? And who are you talking to?
Who are you talking to? But just like, I guess just saying that, you love one another and care for one another. It's just like, don't be afraid to do that. Because like when that happened, it just like kind of almost like really, in a sense, kind of like reignited the friendship kind of thing. And just, I don't know, made a good improvement on it. And I know when I've texted you like, love you, man, you're just like, all right, what you been drinking?
That's more playing with you, just because I know you well enough that I can do that.
Yeah. So I mean, and I saw like someone like share on Facebook today, like just make an effort to like let people know that you love them and stuff like that, because I guess, and for me, like, thankfully, I'm not really. Oh, well, I shouldn't say not really. I'm not one of those persons that have seriously considered anything. Well, suicide in the past 30 days. But like,
how about past 60?
Probably good. I don't, dude. How long is 60 days? No, it's 2 months. Paul's done with me.
I wish you could see me face palming right now. Go on.
But like, it's easy for I could say for me at times, like depending on the friend, like you always say like, oh, it's like, well, like I know they care about me and stuff like that. But then after you like go like for a long time without really interacting with that person or having that like, I guess, kind of deep conversation, the mind can like to trick you and make you think that maybe not, kind of thing. You
need another dose of that oxycontin.
Yeah, baby.
Of the oxycontin. Or whatever, the cuddle.
the cuddle chemical.
Oxytocin,
yeah, that's it.
you need another dose of that.
Yeah.
To mentally, even though you know it factually,
right,
you need it mentally.
The mind likes to tell you otherwise.
Oh yeah.
And it's
been there, done that many times.
Right. Well, yeah, right. So it's like, I don't know why that's like a weird thing for people to do if it is, but it's like, why is it weird? It shouldn't be a weird thing.
Well, especially for guys. We grew up, especially my generation.
Gotta be a tough kid.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta be a tough kid. Don't show the emotion. You see all the movies, with the tough guy, with the action star, whatever, and he's like never sheds a tear.
It's just stone cold.
Yeah.
Just like,
and that's what, guys grow up. That's why they have this thing about toxic masculinity and all that stuff. Okay, it's gone overboard. There's some parts of it where I agree with, about, guys never showing emotion. That, that could be damaging, very damaging.
Big time.
But you don't also, on the flip side, someone who's like... someone who's like always ready on the verge to just cry is like, yeah.
You get looked at the wrong way.
You're like, okay, come on.
It's okay.
But it does serve a purpose. We are emotional human beings. We need some emotional quota filled. Otherwise, we're going to be in a bad shape mentally.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, really just don't be afraid to let people know that you love them. If you do, hopefully you do. I would hope you do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, learn to love somebody. Because, man, if nobody loved you, well, I'm trying to think, like, someone loved you. So share it, spread it, keep it going, keep it moving. Oh, man.
All right.
Jeez.
Josh, do you have any closing remarks?
Nah, Aaron hit it on the head,
I
man.
love you, bruh. Wow, and I don't even get it back.
You don't even get it.
This is why I have problems.
You don't even get it back from Josh. I know, of
You'll
course.
get it back later.
Oh.
Are you gonna cuddle again? Because that was disturbing earlier.
I went earlier.
Never mind.
Oh. You have to remind me. I already forgot.
Never mind.
Uh-oh.
All right. Josh has no closing comments. All right. So
I'll close it up, man.
Yeah.
Wrap her up.
what's going on right now is unprecedented for many reasons for most people alive. If you were alive during 1918, you could probably teach us a few lessons about this, but that for most everyone alive, no one knows what's going on. There's a lot of conflicting information back and forth between various sources, people who should be experts, people who aren't experts, conspiracy theorists, and the like. And everyone who's normal is kind of caught in the middle, and it's causing stress, whether due to unemployment, employment in a stressful, essential job, or caring for loved ones who may be sick, not being able to see loved ones who are dying in the hospital due to restrictions due to COVID, stuff like that. People who grew up being social animals because of their younger age and how they lived that way. All of a sudden being told to isolate and only use video chatting where you're not able to reaffirm those neurochemical transmitters, the oxytocin, to reaffirm that relationship. Touch is essential. Humans were not made to be isolated and live alone and deal with things alone. Humans are also emotional. Hiding your emotion 100% of the time will do you no good and will only lead to pain in the future. So if you don't know how to deal with pain, deal with loss, deal with stress, and you just bottle it up. Yeah, that's what all the action movies say. Guys, you bottle everything up. And then you bottle it up, and that becomes the thing that eventually kills you. Due to a heart attack, suicide, drowning yourself in your sorrows on a bottle, on pills, injecting heroin. In life, it's difficult when you do that. And sometimes you need help. We all do. And I know I've given this number out before, but the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. If you are hard of hearing or deaf, you can also go to their website, suicidepreventionlifeline.org, or text 1-800-273-8255 for chat as well. Now, on the good news on that, the FCC has recently designated the number 988, which will forward to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline in the future. It's not active yet, but that is coming soon. So, we have 911 for medical emergencies and that. Soon, people will be able to call 988 for mental health medical emergencies, obviously. And if you're dealing with someone a family member, a friend who, they have the gun to their head, or they're about to pull the trigger, or they're getting ready to swallow a bottle of pills, don't call the 1-800 number. Call 911. Get them to the ER. Having them a little upset at you that you went, quote unquote, a little over the top and getting them to an ER doc, that's better than having to go to their funeral, because that means they're alive still. 1 in 4 people, 18 to 24. And hopefully that number goes down in the future here, but I still can't wrap my head around that number.